For most people, especially after the age of 30, this muscle is severely overstrained. People don't even realize what consequences this can lead to. It can affect bowel function, cause chronic fatigue, and even depression. Vision may even deteriorate. There can be internal intoxication in the body, dysfunction of internal organs, and even prolapse of internal organs. And most importantly, a person may not even understand what is causing it. This is Dr. Alice with you, and today I will share 2 effective techniques that will help relax the puborectalis muscle. We will also discuss why this muscle is so important and what happens if you ignore it. You will also find out why many people use the toilet incorrectly and why your heart seems to drop to your heels. So the puborectalis muscle is the muscle that forms the main part of the pelvic floor. Here in the picture you can see the pelvic floor. Here is the sacrum, the pubic symphysis, the iliac pelvic bones, and you can see the muscles which are marked in red. This is the pelvic floor, the muscles of the pelvic floor. And a lot depends on them because essentially all the organs of the abdomen, or rather the pelvic organs, rest directly on these muscles. And here you can also see the openings. And see, through these openings the urethra and the rectum is passing. When this muscle is in tension, that is, it can lead to disruption of the act of defecation afterwards. And considering that now in the modern world, by using, let's say, modern toilets, we do not properly stretch this muscle, and this muscle remains in a more rigid, tense state. The thing is, for this muscle to be able to fully stretch and for the act of defecation to occur correctly, it is necessary for the anus and rectum to be positioned below the knees. And this can only be done if you are squatting. If you are sitting on a regular toilet, this muscle does not engage properly. That is why if you have problems with constipation or your intestines are not functioning properly, it may be due to this muscle not working correctly, which creates a constant spasm in the rectum, tension, and all the resulting consequences. And if in fact there are problems with the functioning of the intestines, especially the rectum, then toxins begin to accumulate in the body. The next important point, the internal organs can start to descend. Chronic tension develops in the pelvic floor area, right here, yes, between the coccyx and the pubic symphysis. This leads to stagnation. There are many venous plexuses there, a huge number of blood vessels. That is why, if there is chronic tension in the pelvic area, it causes the pelvis to become heavy and congested, and the legs start to swell more and more. This indicates that you have problems with the pelvic floor, among other things, because all the lymphatic and venous vessels from the lower limbs pass through these muscles, through the pelvic floor. If this is not addressed, what will it lead to? It also leads to the development of chronic inflammatory processes in the reproductive system, both in the female and male systems. For example, this can lead to persistent prostatitis, even to the enlargement and overgrowth of the prostate gland, and even the development of prostate adenoma. In women's case, this can cause chronic inflammatory conditions such as cystitis and painful menstruation as well. And of course, it also leads to the prolapse of internal organs. On the one hand, tension in the pelvic area can increase, but under the influence of strain, this whole structure will stretch, and the organs will descend downward. The pelvic floor is not only well supplied with blood, but also has many nerves, because in the sacral area, you can see here the yellow parts, nerves branch out. And these nerves are precisely what control all the internal organs and the pelvic floor. And this area responds to emotions and stress and worries. It's not by chance. If you look at animals in nature, when they feel fear, they tuck their tails. Tension arises because this is exactly where psychosomatic responses accumulate. And first and foremost, that's anxiety and fear. These are the basic instincts of self-preservation. If this muscle is tense, a person is constantly in a state of anxiety and fear. And that's why by relaxing these muscles, you reprogram your nervous system. And these charges of anxiety and worry can dissolve. And indeed, when you work through this muscle, you feel more lightness and freedom in your head. Your state becomes calmer. Why does chronic fatigue occur? Look, this is not only because of impaired blood circulation, innervation, or nerve function, but also, if we look from the perspective of alternative medicine, The main central energy meridian passes through the coccyx, our pelvic floor, the entire spine, and the crown of the head as well. You may also feel the movement of vital energy, which in different traditions is called prana, ki energy, and in osteopathy we call it fluid. In other words, this can be felt. That is, there is a certain circulation of vital energy. As soon as the movement of energy through the central channel is disrupted, a state of chronic fatigue immediately arises, and there is a kind of decline. In men, even testosterone levels can decrease against this background. And on the contrary, men who engage in physical sports, who train their legs and work with the pelvis actually experience an increase in testosterone. Everything is actually interconnected. So guys, the two techniques that I am about to show you should be practiced regularly. So I have deliberately sat down now in front of you in this squat position with my legs spread apart, you see? Why? Your pelvic floor drops below your knees. This is the entire pelvic floor and it gets stretched. Plus, when you move your legs to the sides, what happens? You also stretch your ischial tuberosities outward. In other words, you need to stretch this area. What do we do? You can place your hands to help stretch and you'll feel, right in the area of the anal opening near the perineum, a stretch. What do you do next? Now you take a deep diaphragmatic breath and send this wave down into your pelvis, all right? So you need to feel that the pelvic floor, like a balloon, is being stretched. At the peak of your inhale, hold it there. When your muscles have stretched down below, you then start to contract the rectum and anus inward. What happens then? You've stretched this muscle and now you begin to tense it, pulling the rectum upward and inward. This muscle tenses up, it starts to warm up, and you hold it like that for about 7 seconds, then exhale sharply and relax. So let's give it a try. Place your hands, take a breath in. Did you feel your pelvic floor stretch out completely? And now start to tense up, that is, pull the rectum upward. And so for 7 seconds you should feel a tremor, a vibration, then exhale sharply and sort of relax. You can also stretch your legs like this, do this movement to stretch even more. Repeat this for several cycles. You may notice that with each phase you feel more lightness in your pelvic floor. What do you feel? You feel warmth here, that is warmth in your legs in the pelvic floor area, and you are warming up this zone. You improve blood circulation, you release certain emotional charges, and you restore the tone of this muscle. After doing this technique with me, please write in the comments what you feel in the pelvic area. Do you feel warmth, a rush of heat, relaxation, lightness? This technique is very powerful and I'm interested to know what you experienced. In general, there are many different exercises for relaxing the pelvic floor, and you've probably heard of Kegel exercises. This technique, though, is my own original method. I like it the most because I feel a greater effect from it. And my patients do as well. But if you find it difficult to do this technique, I'll show you the standard Kegel technique, which also works quite well. The next exercise is the Kegel exercise. You lie down. The starting position, bend your legs at the knees and take a breath in. As you inhale, lift your pelvis and tense your pelvic floor, holding this position for about 7 seconds. So let's do it. Now inhale, tense your pelvic floor, hold your breath, keep the tension for 7 seconds and then exhale, all right? This way you train the pelvic floor muscles, the puborectalis muscle, and then repeat again. Take a breath in. Hold it. Of course, it's better to do a set of exercises. There are also exercises for the thoraco-abdominal diaphragm, for the internal organs, and for the sacrum. All of this will only enhance the effect. Naturally, other factors should also be taken into account. There could be a simple injury to the sacrum or coccyx, which can cause the pelvic floor to function improperly and create tension there. Or for example, after childbirth, a woman may also experience trauma to the pelvic floor. And here, both independent mindful work and possibly seeing an osteopathic doctor are necessary. In any case, if you consciously work with your pelvic floor, you can not only improve your health, but also your emotional state, because any tightness and tension in our body create emotional triggers. By releasing your body, you also let go of the emotional trigger. And all of this is also connected to the movement of vital energy in our body. When you restore your body's function, you experience a surge of energy because the energy starts to circulate properly and you feel lively and energized. If you're truly interested in your health, I recommend subscribing to my channel, because for every issue you can find the real causes of illness and how to resolve them using natural methods. This was Dr. Alice with you, and see you next time.